I have with me today Johnny Wolff. Johnny is an interesting guy. He's the CEO and founder of HomeRoom, which provides affordable housing and a great roommate experience. The company has expanded to include the Dallas metro area and Austin in a little over 2.5 years. Johnny Wolff graduated from California Polytechnic State University in 2007. And after working in financial services for several large startups, he decided to follow his dream. He learned the real estate business and started HomeRoom, a co-living company, the first in Kansas City. HomeRoom provides a great roommate experience for professionals and anyone else wanting to live in a community. Johnny led HomeRoom from idea stage to over $1 million in revenue, with revenue growth of 25% in November of 2020. He created the first single-family home co-living investment product for private investors in the United States. Launching the HomeRoom co-living app on iOS and Android, he successfully helped the company pivot from a standard inventory sourcing strategy, in other words, renting homes, to an innovative and capital-efficient approach, helping investors buy homes. This new approach increased growth by 600%. He also established corporate partnerships with the Kansas City Royals, Price Point Protection Partners, and Better Capital. In his spare time, Johnny volunteers with Big Brothers and Sisters, and he loves spending time with his nephews. Please help me welcome Johnny Wolff.
Thanks, Harry. So happy to be here, man.
Thank you for joining us. That's great. How are you, Johnny?
I'm doing well, doing really well today. We're having a fun April. We just had the first homeroom baby born. Our VP of operations had a child on Friday, so came to our team meeting, and his name's Zeke, and so that's probably the highlight of my week so far.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm going to tell you, reading your bio, I see you developed some corporate partnerships, including one with the Kansas City Royals. Like, how did that come about? What's that all about?
What's funny, our mutual connection, Kelly, she reached out to them, and Kelly is HomeRoom's first kind of team member, and she's one of the most tenacious people I've ever met. And she just kept reaching out to them, and eventually they set up a call, and we got a partnership with them to house. They do an intern program that lasts for 9 months during the baseball season, and so we housed them for 2020. So it was very, very exciting for us.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Well, as you know, the name of the podcast is Whispers and Bricks. Now, the whispers are those voices telling you what is the right thing to do, and they represent the good in life. The bricks represent the bad things we go through in life. Now, on the surface, you seem to have had a pretty good life and a career. However, we all know life is not a straight line. There are many ups and downs and many bumps in the road. Now, let me ask you this. At what point did you decide to leave the financial world and follow your dream? Like, what was the impetus to make that move?
Yeah, so I was living in the center of San Francisco in 2015, working at a bank, and like had a really nice view, and it seemed like a good career path that I was on, but I was pretty bored at the time, and the real estate values in San Francisco were astoundingly high, and I wasn't going to be able to settle down and set up the life I wanted. So in 2015, I just decided I'm going to move to Austin, Texas. I'm going to invest in real estate. And that's going to be what I'm going to do that's what I'm going to focus on. And so I did. I packed up, and it took me about 45 days to make the decision. I checked in the market, and it seemed like a great place to invest. And so that's kind of what spurred my change there.
Wow. Now, let me ask you this. Like, what is the difference between like HomeRoom and Airbnb?
Yeah, so Airbnb and HomeRoom, there's some similarities to start off with. Both are marketplaces in which an investor with a property can put their property on the platform, and it becomes a listing for a tenant or a guest. Airbnb is short-term rentals, and so typically people are staying from a day to 30 days. That's the short-term rental space. And it can take a variety of form factors, a single room, a full location. HomeRoom is specifically targeting creating co-living spaces. So that means that the whole house is involved in this model, and it involves multiple roommates in different bedrooms. And typically our folks stay a bit over a year. So it's a much longer term, but there's a lot of similarities for the investors. The benefits are more revenue, and it's kind of an innovative model. So usually when you get on things that are innovative, you can make more returns. So that's why a lot of people like coliving as well as the Airbnb approach.
Oh, wow. Okay. I had no idea. All right. Maybe we'll talk later about what kind of investments you're looking for. But in the meantime, so tell me this. What my audience wants to know basically is like, what are some of the struggles or failures, if you've had any, that like some of the bricks that you got hit with, either personal or professional, throughout your career?
Sure. A few main ones. So in 2010, I tore my ACL playing basketball, which was silly. And that's not really a career break, but the recovery ended up causing other systemic issues with my feet and legs. So I kind of made it so I was always like a pretty athletic soccer playing dude, and that was my thing. And I basically had to retire, in like kind of my mid 20s. And so that's sort of, I think when that's sort of part of your identity, it unbalances you, including your career. So that was one of the bigger challenges. And then in 2012, I started to have some more systemic pain in other joints of my body. Right. So that was something that I actually consider. At one point I started to consider, like, can I continue to do desk jobs, or do I need to become like a park ranger? And so I did a number of different things that kind of balanced out my life again and allowed me to continue on with my career. And it's kind of led me here. Early in HomeRoom, though, we had a ton of bricks that hit us. We thought we knew what we were doing at the beginning, and the initial model we tried didn't work at all. So we had to downsize the team to essentially me and Kelly, after about 6 months, and me and her just soldiered through for about another 6 months before we were able to add anyone else. So, sometimes the best thing you can have is just like one or two very tenacious people. When we don't have any money and you don't have anything else. So
Yeah, I hear you. It's funny you talk about your ACL. I tore my ACL. I was used to be a big hoops player.
yeah.
Loved playing basketball, and I tore my meniscus twice. And then when I was about 40, when I was playing, I tore my ACL, and I went like, my basketball career is over. You can't do that. I says, look, I got to work for a living. I can't be sidelined where I can't walk, or, it just, it wasn't worth it anymore. So, but that's when I took up golf. I don't know if you play, but for me, it was pretty good. It was a pretty good replacement. Although my wife got me for my 40th birthday, she got me 5 golf lessons. And she did not realize what was going to happen, because I was, hook, line, and sinker, my friend. I was all in, and golf is a lot of time, takes a lot of time. And
yes.
She was like, oh, what did I create here?
Basketball, maybe an hour, but golf is 5 hours. So.
Yeah. Wow. So how is business today?
Business today is good. We're up 300% this year, which we're really excited about. We've received angel investments, and we're in the process of getting additional angel investment funding, which is very cool. It's when a professional person that you have no connection to says, hey, your business is something that I'd like to put money in. It's very exciting. So the team is super excited. We're looking at expanding to our 4th market. So we're in I would say, when I look at where we were a year ago, which was, 14 months ago, which is like, we don't have anyone except for like me, Kelly, and accountant Natalie. And I look at us say we have 6 full-time team members. It's a pretty amazing turnaround for us.
That's great. So with my next question, basically, you've kind of answered part of it. And that was, did you ever fall so low that, you ever get to the point where you went like, you know what, I quit. I'm giving up on my dream. I can't do this. It's not going to work. I am buried. You know what? I'm out. Did you ever, it sounded like you might've reached that kind of a point. And if you did, all right, how did you get out of it? In other words, how did you break that horrible, horrible cycle? I know I've been there. Okay. So I know for me, my audience knows my story, but how did you get through that?
Yeah. We had an ops manager. So at the time this was October of 2019. Yeah, we had Kelly, myself, Natalie, Kelly and Natalie are still with us, an ops manager and so the ops manager was a core part of what we were doing. He was me and him were the only full-time employees at the time. He got a DUI and his job was to drive around, and he got put in jail, and we didn't hear from him for 5 days.
Oh my God.
And then he just essentially ghosted the company. Like, he just disappeared. And so it was just me and, a lot of properties and 100 roommates. And we were down to about $12,000 at the time. So we saved money because we didn't have anyone else. So I guess that was a blessing. So yeah, there was definitely, during that phase, there was a lot of times where I was like, I wish I'd never started this company. I think I'm probably gonna have to declare personal bankruptcy. I talked with my girlfriend about it pretty regularly. Like, I think there's a decent chance that I'll have to declare bankruptcy out of this. I had started the company out of my own retirement savings. Ooh. And so it was like, I was just gonna be wiped completely out. Oh. And so that was tough. I mean, it's very depressing to even think about, like, just going back to zero. And I'm not 22 anymore, right? So, so it's just, the thought was just pretty nauseating. The way we pulled out of it is, I mean, thank God for Kelly and Natalie, they were contractors, but they're still with us today. They're just two people that never give up, right? And I have a little bit of that ethos in me as well, but I think they have it more. And so we transitioned the model, which made the business go from being not a really good business to a much, much better business. And so that was sort of some creativity that I had and some transitions I made. So that helped a lot. And then we were able to convince a few people to invest money in the company and buy a few houses with us. And so that basically turned the corner for the company. It's like, we now have a model that if we do it more, it's actually going to be better. We're not going to lose more money so. I don't know. It was a lot of tough days where you just keep working and you don't feel like it, I guess, is how we turned it around.
Right. Right. I tell my kids all the time, life is not, like I said, it's not a straight line, whatever. You're going to hit bumps in the road, and, you're going to wake up some mornings and say, I'm not doing this anymore. But you know what? You have to. Okay. You have to tell yourself, no, I know where I am, and I'm not going to let this thing beat me. I have to get up. I have things to do. And if I want to break free, I got to do them. And, I try and instill that into my kids. And I think it worked pretty well. I've got 5 kids. And yeah. So, I've got, my daughter's a doctor. The other one is a special ed teacher. My son's a social worker. My other son is going to be an actuary. And then I have a 17-year-old who's in high school, who's driving me up a wall. But that's their job. Okay. Teenagers.
So they're succeeding at their job.
They're definitely succeeding at their job. Yeah, without a doubt. No, but I hear you. Can I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
Did you ever turn to God? You ever talk to God, turn to God, or it was just you? And
in an indirect way, I guess I would say, my family is pretty faith-based Christians, and so my dad that's very important to him, and my mom as well. And so I definitely asked them to pray for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So kind of like
it's indirect. I get it.
Pass the message over for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, because I find, believe it or not, there's the old saying, there are no atheists in foxholes. Okay. And I find in all the people that I've been interviewing, all right, I always find that, when they've gotten to that point, most of them will tell me, I just looked up to God and I said, I need help here. Some of them said, like you, I didn't, but I sent my messenger, I sent my mom and dad and I said, do me a favor, pray for me, So, so in some way, shape or form, let me ask you this. If you had to do it all over again, what would be the one thing you would change? If anything.
Um, oh, I think I would have taken that day off basketball if I had a choice. But if I had the
Like,
choice
do you
there.
think? Do you think you would have, if you had to do it all over again? Do you think you would have said, not even think about going into the financial world and just start this thing first, or would it be something like that? I don't know. I'm grasping.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I would still have gone down the path. The and the banking role that I had inspired me to be like, this is not the career for me anymore. And so I guess I'm grateful for every step, and I'm not just trying to be avoid the question. There's probably some strategic decisions I would have done a little differently in terms of like who I hired and when. Maybe wouldn't have hired that office manager. I would have, and so I think those were the team building aspects, and like hiring a little bit slower is in some cases are things that I probably would have done differently.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, last but not least, do you have anything that you would care to share with my audience? Words of wisdom, advice. My audience is, there are people in my audience that are just like you. All right. And that's why I started this program, because there are a lot of people out there who think they're the only ones going through what they're going through. And I know that there are, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that are going through the same thing. And they like to hear that, hey, there's somebody out there. I'm going through that thing. How did he do it? Let me hear what he's done, and it's great. It's been wonderful. So any words of wisdom?
Yeah. I think, the one thing I think that held me through when it was really when it was really bleak was I had done, I think, a decent amount of research on how difficult it was to start a company, before I started it. And so I understood, like, there's definitely quotes out there that people talk about. It's like, chewing on glass, and it's like very difficult, very, very difficult, especially a startup where you have big ambitions in a short amount of time. Um, and I kind of knew that. So in the back of my mind, I didn't want to start a company. And I came from, my dad had started a company in the Silicon Valley. And so I'd observed that. And I didn't make the move until I felt like I, I knew it was the right thing, that no matter what, I was going to keep going until like I absolutely couldn't, right? Until like I dropped dead, or, I ran completely out of money and people and everything. So I think that was, I think understanding, I think sometimes people enter things and they don't understand how hard it's going to be, and they still persevere, and that's awesome. But I think understanding how hard what you've decided to do will be, and looking at the truth of that, and then making sure you're committed to that level of challenge when you're really not feeling like doing it, and you've already understand it was going to feel that bad, then it's easier to do it that day, I think. Does that make
Wow.
sense?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. You need the tenacity. You need you gotta, what they say, what is it? California or bust, I used to see those things in New York, people that, but I'm dating myself right now, because that was in the 70s and the 60s. Anyway. So now if people want to get in touch with you, learn more about what you do,
Sure.
what would be the best way for them to do that? How can they get a hold of you, or how do they get a hold of the business?
Sure. You can email me directly at johnny@livehomeroom.com anytime. I'm happy to respond. I do check my email and get back to everyone. And livehomeroom.com is our website. What we offer is, real estate investing with
Mhm.
through co-living. And so typically the returns are quite a bit better. And, we built it so it's easy for investors. They don't have to do much, pretty passive. And then if you're looking to, be a roommate, you can always talk to us too. We've had 400 roommates in our history, and that's what we do, is match people up and make sure they're good fits, and enjoy the journey of living with other people.
Wow. Do you ever have, it just dawned on me, do you ever have a situation where you had like a bad roommate? I mean, it must have happened. I can't imagine that it didn't.
Yeah, we've definitely had a few people who had to ask to leave. We've never had to call the police or evict anyone, so
All right, well,
that's a victory. But we have a psychologist that will mediate if needed, and that's only happened twice though. So it's
uh-huh.
honestly most people they're happy they get along pretty well with other people, and we don't have that many issues.
Wow, that's great. Johnny, thanks so much for sharing your story with my audience, giving the people the motivation they need to persevere in all of their struggles in life. Good luck to you going forward. You've been listening to Whispers and Bricks, and I'm your host, Ari Sherman. Until next time, listen to the whispers, avoid the bricks, and never, ever give up on your dreams. Bye for now. Johnny,